Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Road Deck Chronicles. I am Dean, and once again, I have Devin with me.
Hey everybody, hopefully everyone is enjoying the holiday weekend over here in the States and a good beginning of summer everywhere else in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, I know a lot of schools were already out on their summer vacation. We have one more week, at least in the area I am in the state of Florida, and then we'll be on some. The kids will be on summer vacation here, so hopefully leagues will be a little more popular. With the kids being out of school, so we can't wait to see new trainers being introduced to the game. Um, but enough with that. Devin, how was your weekend with Pokemon?
It was interesting. It was 90 some odd degrees both days of the weekend, like the Saturday and Sunday. So I didn't know Pokemon Go. I was not doing Machop Community Day or the Machamp Gmax Day. Like it's too hot where we live. I'm sure you're probably dealing with the same level of heat that I'm dealing with. So I kind of just
Oh yeah.
stayed at home and just relaxed. Like I didn't do much in terms of Pokemon. It's getting too hot to do Pokemon Go, but you still want to be outside. It is summer after all. Like you still want to do stuff on the weekends. So it's interesting, but Florida definitely does not allow you to do much of that.
Yeah, I kind of did the community day. I think I caught like four Pokemon and gave up. Not gave up, but I was doing something else. But you know how you have the research that goes with it?
Hmm.
On the second day, I caught a shiny, so I'm
Oh,
like, okay,
nice.
well, I got my shiny from Shiny Machop, so I'll take this.
Yeah, everyone also got that free special research from the event from early in the week. So like going out and just catching Pokemon was what they wanted you to do. It's just the South in the summer is not fun to be outside for long periods of time.
Oh no, it's hot and it's muggy. That's the problem I have. It's more muggy than anything. So the only reason why I did was I was inside. I dipped my foot into the collecting side of things with Pokemon this weekend. I went to Collecticon in Orlando
Mm.
with my good friends. So it was really interesting going to a convention like that. I will say it was overwhelming for me. I am not a people person, even though I love going to regionals. Going to a convention like that was
Very
a
different.
whole different thing.
Yeah. A friend of mine runs conventions in Central Florida, and I go to hers every once in a while, and I'll go for like half a day, and I'm like, I'm out. Bye.
Yeah, we stayed for the weekend. We made a thing out of it. We went. I got a couple cards. I was telling you, Devin.
Yeah.
I'm in a process of alt raring our Lycanroc deck that we made, just because it's a fun deck. It's something you may spend a lot of time on. So I want to make that with all the alt arts if I can. Obviously, I'm not spending a lot of money on the trainers just because some of the supporters are way too expensive. But at least for Pokemon wise, it's gonna be all art if I can.
Yeah, unlike the decks we make in live, right, where you're using like the full arts. I'm like looking at the deck. I'm like, did you just like max rarity or deck of the week? Like, what are you doing?
I have those cards. I just pulled them in live. So I'm gonna use them. So, but that's different. I just play a bunch of games and earn them.
Yeah.
Versus like I'm not spending $100 on a full art Iono. No,
No.
thank you.
No.
Eat, eat.
I had the dream one day when I was playing collecting. Where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get a full art of every single trainer or every single supporter. I want to get the full art. I want to have a binder of it. And then I started like doing some of the research. I'm like, oh, some of these are really easy to get a hold of. And then I'm like, for Bianca from Black and White is how much? No, thank you. That dream quickly died.
Oh, even like working on the Lycanroc deck, I'm like, oh, I want to try and get some gold spiky energy. One, they're super hard to find because no one uses them. And I went to a vendor that had all four of them, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this. And then once I decided, like, okay, I want to get these cards, I couldn't find that vendor again. I couldn't remember where I went. And it was like $10 a card for a gold energy. I'm like, good thing I budgeted for this, but obviously I never got those
No.
cards. But yeah, that's why I'm more of a player than a collector. I just can't do that. I know people that collect and make a profit off of it. It's just not for me.
I know players and friends of mine, you know one of them, Andrew, who used to max rarity his deck. And I just looked at him like, why are you max raritying your deck? You're going to riffle shuffle this like a million times. He goes, I just like it being banged out. I'm like, You do you, Andrew. I love you to death, but not for me.
My buddy did the same thing. We went to Orlando Regional last year, and he max rarity a Giratina V-Star deck. Guess how much that deck was worth?
Probably close to $400.
Oh, it was 1,900.
What? No. Nope.
And he riffle shuffled it. He's telling us the stories when he's playing. He was playing the deck. He's riffle shuffling. His opponent obviously doesn't know what's going on, but the two people sitting next to him gave him the eyes. Like, what are you doing? He just smiles back. It's like, oh yeah, and he riffles it all. And he still made a profit selling that deck back to vendors.
Yeah, right.
He was telling me, he was like, oh yeah, I made $500 off of that. I'm like, weren't they in like moderately played conditions? Like, oh no, I can negotiate. I'm good. He's good at it.
No, no, thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, 19. That's more than my mortgage.
Yeah, it's more than how much I pay for my house every month.
Yeah, and we told that's a joke we have, and like, yeah, that deck was worth more than all our rents or mortgages. Like, he just did it for fun of it. He's a collector. He's more of a collector, but he learned how to play, and he'll go to these tournaments with us just to have fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, hearing those stories, it was hilarious.
Yeah. But
enough on the collecting side of things.
Yeah, there's a tournament we need to talk about.
Yeah, so this weekend while we were doing our Florida adventures, some people went out to Portland, Oregon, and played in the Portland Regional. So we have the results from that. So
yes.
Again, Gardevoir won. It was a Gardevoir mirror match in the finals. But with that, Henry Chow, again, in the finals for the 4th time this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's having a really good season. Like you and I are, every single time we talk about the tournament, it seems like Henry Chow's name's being popped up in the top cut and top 8. And it's one of those, I think you've argued he is the best player in the world. I think that him and Brent Thomason's name gets tossed up between the kind of the two people running that argument. But regardless, this is Henry's breakout season. Like, he's been kind of flirting around with the top echelon, the names, and now he has firmly planted himself as either the 1 or 1A of the season. So
at least for Gardevoir players, like at that. This is, I think, his only second season playing Masters like super competitively, and he is now a no-name competitor. He is definitely done really well this season. If we're gonna call out a rookie of the year, his name is going to be up there in that conversation if we ever do something like that. Lost to Michael Davison, who is another second. He's a second-year master, like a true second-year master. Versus Henry just got into the game recently. But yeah, Michael Davison won with the Gardevoir deck. He is now on his way to Worlds, even though he was already in the way Worlds already. He's done really well this season as well.
Yeah, he has earned.
And then this was a top 14 cut too.
Yeah, it's a fairly bigger cut, but I think is what you and I are talking about, right? Like, so this tournament only had just under 1,700 players. So there's this threshold, right, where the sweet spot of the top cuts, where they really do become true asymmetricals instead of 1 or 2 people. The more people that attend, the smaller that bubble becomes. It's just that's what happens when you play with more people, more rounds. So like the 1,700 number really is the sweet spot where you have a true asymmetrical top cut, and it goes beyond that top 8, right? Now I'll be very interested to see what that number is to get to like an 18-person top cut one day, because it is theoretically, mathematically possible. But I think 15, 14 is like the most we've really truthfully seen that's not in a world championship format.
Yeah, I know the format where we have is prepared for a top 32. Obviously, with TCG, we're not going to hit that unless we get a really small tournament, which in North America, we're not going to get a small one.
No.
That may be more for Oceania, but not for us.
Yeah, and I think 1,700 for a North American regional does sound small for North America, but it's still a fairly large tournament.
Oh, absolutely. So one cool thing, other than it being a 14-person top cut, this is the fun fact. I actually didn't share this with you, Devin.
Hmm.
One of the players, Joseph Mused,
Uh-huh.
he actually got the bye round 1.
Like,
And he was like, I hope this luck continues
like
and
true round
makes it
one
all the way
bye.
to top 8.
How did he get a bye? It's an even number of players.
He tweeted he got the bye, so I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Or maybe it wasn't even by round 1. Because that number, I think they adjust that after round 1 for the no-shows.
That would make sense, yeah, because the true attendance isn't until you get results in. That would make more sense.
Yeah, so they probably cut all the people that didn't show up. So at that point it was probably odd, and then he just got the bye because only one person gets a bye round 1, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's how it should work.
Yeah, so it
So
was really cool that
yeah,
his luck
so
was really with him that this weekend.
yeah, there were 3 players who didn't get ranked. So there must have been last drops but there was one, two.
Or even some DQs.
I mean, there's 3 people who didn't get a placement. One of them was a bottom ed, but he had 29 match points. So I don't know. Maybe a DQ or 2 did happen. Who knows? That's digging into the
We don't
numbers.
know.
We're doing all this with very minimal research right now. So there's no stories, which is always a good thing. You never want to hear the drama and stories are coming out of a tournament. Really, it
Yeah,
is. Henry Chow got second, continuing his tear of Gardevoir. It was Gardevoir mirror, which is you and I were talking. It is not that doesn't surprise neither one of us, but it surprises a large portion of the player base for some reason, and you and I don't understand that.
I know for a lot of the top players, it's not more of a surprise. It's more of like, let's celebrate this. Like, if he would have won, he would have won 4 regionals in 1 season, which is a historic accomplishment in the TCG,
Mm-hmm.
especially modern TCG, where with this size of tournaments, that's hard enough already to win 1 or 2, or like win 2 in 1 season, and getting to 3 with a final. Like, I don't even think Tor Redcliffe has done that.
Not on the regional. I mean, the closest anyone can really make a comparison is like toward getting the 3 straight IC championships in a single year, which I think people would say, well, getting an international championship is harder. Yeah, but at this point, international championships aren't invitationals; they're opens, just like regionals are. So it's one
Hmm.
of those situations where I think a regional and international championship it should and can be viewed as the same type of tournament. If you win 3 or 4 of any one of those in any combination in the season, that's impressive.
Absolutely. So yeah, Henry Chow is just doing great. I can't wait to see how he does. I think he's going to AIC. If not, he doesn't need to. He already got. He's more than got his invite. And then yeah, he will be at Anaheim and just seeing if he takes Gardevoir. And we'll just we got a couple months to see
How he
how he
adjusts.
does in the World Championships. But there's other players that made the top cut.
And there's other decks
Um,
that made top cut too. So the one thing
yeah,
when I was looking at this top cut, the one thing I mentioned to you was this looks like this was Flareon Noctowl's breakout event. And I'm not saying that as, oh look at this new deck. If Flareon Noctowl's been flirting around with top good results for the last couple tournaments. It's just this is the first time we've seen a good handful in that top cut. I mean, yes, it was asymmetrical, but 2 of them did break into that top 8, and I think that's a deck that a lot of players are testing and optimizing that I think will really put a lot of pressure going forward for the rest of this format.
absolutely. And I just love how the innovation of these Flareon Noctowl or EV Box decks. I'm looking at the highest placing one, which was Taylor Whalen at 6th place.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm used to seeing the Flareon.
Yeah.
I'm used to seeing the Sylveon. The Sylveon's been an important tech in this deck. I will say for the last couple tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're playing the Umbreon,
Yeah.
which I find very surprising.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, because the Umbreon, that Onyx attack, uses the same energy combinations for the rest. it's discard all energy and take a prize. Like, taking a free prize, regardless of what format you're in, is still really, really good. Like, I know this is a format where you'd rather do it through KOs and damage, but if you're sitting at one because of how your opponent manipulated the prize trade for the whole fight, you're like, all right, fine. Discard 3 energy, I'll take my final prize, thank you very much.
Yeah, so smart inclusion. I think I've seen it in the deck from last tournament. But it's just like, yeah, seeing that, and then seeing the 7th place list by Owen Dalgard, replacing the Umbreon for a second Sylveon.
Mm-hmm.
But those are really the main differences. But as you mentioned, this was the EV Boxes breakout tournament. We all knew it was a good deck. Now it's showing that this can make top cut and in the right circumstance, even win the home chart tournament. So I'm excited to see how this deck evolves, how this deck improves and grows. And who knows, and maybe in Europe before NEIC with the next couple tournaments, we may see this win a tournament, win the home chart regional.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where it needs the right matchups. I don't think it prefers any particular matchup, but if it can avoid Guardian Dragapult as much as possible, I think it gets better when it avoids those two Pokemon.
That, or it has to be a really quick setup to for the Guardian Dragapult matchup, because in those I think you need to rely on the Sylveon to prevent your opponent from getting their board state going with the second attack, where you pick 2 Pokemon and shuffle it back in the deck.
Yeah.
You want to really slow them down with that. With the 6th place list only playing 1 Sylveon, the 7th place I think will be a little better because you have the second one. But if your Sylveon's prize, you're really relying on just hitting fast and hitting quick.
Yeah, and that's why I think that if it runs into Raging Ball or Terra Box or anything that's not Dragapult and Gardevoir, it breathes a sigh of relief, because those are just harder matchups for it, but they're still doable, don't get me wrong. But the path of least resistance always feels the greatest.
Exactly. And then another archetype that we see that's kind of making its way back, you were talking about it off camera, being the new bridesmaid deck per se, like always the bridesmaid, never the bride, is now Terra Box. It's coming back into popularity, and it's doing well with having 2 Terra Box decks making top cut, with one getting top 4.
Yeah, it has a top 4 and then got 13th or so, lost in that asymmetrical. And this was the archetype that going into this format, going into the Journey Together format, right? Everyone was like, this is the next big thing. This is going to take the format by storm. And it just wasn't as dominant as some people were expecting it to be. It wasn't surpassing the established guard of the Gardevoirs, the Dragapults, different things like that. Like, everyone was definitely talking about, oh, this is the fall of Dragapult, this is the fall of Gardevoir, look at this new Terra Box is going to take its place, and it just didn't. Not saying it's a bad deck, it's just not the hype. It didn't live up to its hype, which I think when the hype is so much, it kind of, the only way to really live up to it is by just winning regional after regional after regional. But with the showing, and then its showings for the last couple weeks, I think it has established itself firmly as like a B tier, tier 2 deck. And it's a deck that I think a player could pick up, master, and do significantly well at any form of tournament.
Exactly. I will say it is not the most user-friendly deck. One of my friends they're getting into the Pokemon game competitively, and we gave them this deck, and they're having a little bit of an issue, like, I can't see my line of play. And I'm like, well, one thing about Terra Box is that you have to know what your opponent's playing, and you're basically reacting to what their strategy is. This is a box deck, so you need to figure out, okay, I'm going against Dragapult, I need to do this line of play for the whole entire game. Going against Ranger Bolt, I need to do this line of play. It's really being a more reactionary deck
Mm-hmm.
instead of like, okay, this is my strategy, no matter what, it's very linear. I'm just going to go. This is like you have a lot of different options. How do I play against what is in front of me?
Yeah, it's a Swiss Army knife deck for sure. It has a counter for everything. It has a counter for nothing at the same time. So it's one of those. All right, let's see what my opening hand gives me, and I'll execute the strategy based on what my opening hand and what my opponent shows me at the same time. Like your turn one matters. Turn one in that deck will determine how you will have to navigate the rest of the matchup. Not saying that no other turn matters, but like if you're playing against Dragapult and you find out your Clefairy's prized, all right, you have to re-navigate yourself in order to get to that Clefairy. Because obviously Lillie's Clefairy will make the rest of the matchup easier, but and then also for like if your Pikachu EX or your Ogerpon, like it's so many one-ofs, any of them can be
Mm-hmm.
prized and really put you into a how do I get out of this position. And it's never a you're gonna lose, it's a all right, I need to readjust. And it's all about, like you said, it's all about the adjustments, all about that reactionary play. This is not a proactive deck. This is a very much a reactive deck.
Exactly. You really need to know the meta when you bring this to a tournament, and then know your matchups into the expected decks that you're going to hit. So, but it's doing well. It's one of those decks that always will make top cut or at least close to it. It is a strong deck, obviously. So we'll see if this evolves as we go into Destined Rivals. If what cards we're going to take in, adjust, whatever we need to do. So yeah, we'll see. We got a couple more tournaments in this format before NEIC, and maybe it will get into the finals or even win a regional. It just any one of these decks we're talking about can win a regional. Obviously, it made top cut. It's a matter of time, and really the matchups you go into that single elimination bracket that will determine how well these decks will go. But there's one deck on here that's it new. We've never seen it, one, do well at a tournament, two, make top cut of a tournament.
Yeah, this deck list, the player had a very good. I think looking back at it, you and I are breaking into this, and it's a deck that we've more or less profiled on the channel in the past in a very different format, and I think it's better positioned now than it's ever been, which is Toadscroll EX.
Mm-hmm.
I think Toadscroll is really powered by its baby version more than its EX. And then the biggest difference is that Iron Leaves EX just adds so much flexibility to that deck.
Yeah, absolutely. For those who don't know what this deck does, one, I don't blame you. Two, it is really reliant on the Toadscroll EX and the baby Toadscroll. So the baby Toadscroll, it has a Slime Colony ability. It says cards in your opponent's discard pile cannot be put back into their hand by an effect of an opponent's ability or trainer cards. So this is really good against cards like Godango, where you really are relying on superior energy retrieval. Once they use Energy Search Pro and do that first attack, you can put this card into play, and then until they can deal with this card, they can't really recycle their energy.
Yep.
So you're preventing all that. You're also preventing Night Stretcher. So Night Stretcher cannot be played. We can't. Sorry, back up. Their opponent can play these cards. It will have no effect.
Yeah.
So if you can catch your opponent, they're playing Night Stretcher or they're playing Superior Energy, they are allowed to play that card. They just can't do it. They just can't get the cards back.
And
that's important to know.
A good player would probably burn through their hand if they had like a Mew EX in play or had a supporter where all right, let me thin out my hand, let me get more effectiveness. Like there are cards in play that want you to have a smaller hand size. So there's one of those situations where you want to just get rid of your hand and play cards for no effect. So that's not if they're doing it, they probably are doing it for a reason after you catch them the first time, for sure.
Yeah. Because that happened to me. I played this card against this card on live. I'm like, I want to do this, and I'm like, it lets me play the card, but I don't get the effect of the card.
Yeah, it's not locked by any means, so it's not preventing you from playing. It says they just do not have any effect.
Exactly. So there's the baby toll scroll, and then we have the EX, which has the protective mycelium ability. Prevent all effects of attacks by your opponent's Pokemon done to your Pokemon that have energy attached to it. So this prevents Dragon Pole Vam Dive.
Yep, absolutely. Prevents the spreading of those damage counters. You have the Teal Dance Ogre Pawn to do some draw and energy acceleration at the same time. You have the Iron Leaves, like I said. I think this card really wrapped the deck up. It has the Rapid Vernier ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may switch it with your active Pokemon. If you do, you may move any amount of energy from other Pokemon to this Pokemon. So if you have 3 energy in play, you can put down the Iron Leaves from hand to bench, promote it from bench to active, move 3 energy, and then do 180. And the Prism Edge is 180, just can't attack next turn, which is fine because you also run the Latias EX.
Exactly, yeah. So you have a free retreat option right there. You have a lot of energy switch, so you can get your energy on your Pokemon any way you like with this card. I would say this gets better with Destined Rivals with the Omega EX that we talked about on last week's episode.
Yeah, because you can move energy from the Omega around with its attack. I think the one thing that would maybe not fit into this deck would be the fact that Omega is a stage 1. So if anything, you would probably want to put a 1/1 or a 2/2 line at most. But I can definitely see cards that I would cut and adjust. Like I would cut out the Badoo and the Squawkabilly in a second. It's not unknown in this podcast how much I do not like either one of those cards. But like it makes sense. It has 4 bug catching set, so yeah, Mega makes perfect sense to search for it. So yeah, no, I would add a 1/1 with a very easy cut right there, and I think you'd be fine. It really just depends if Mega really fixes any of your math for you.
Yeah, I would mainly use it just to get my energy, like use it once, get my energy spread going once I attack.
And then just move it
that
back
way.
when you want it.
Yeah, that way you set up the Toll Scroll EX's ability, and then for the rest of the game, you're okay. You lose a 2 prizer, but you ultimately prevent Dragapult, which is going to be one of your number matchups you're going to hit a lot, with it being a very high encounter rate. And then you're just okay. You hit me for 200, but you're not doing it in your spread, and that's what really matters with Dragapult is the spread.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I like this deck. I'm very, very happy to see it do well. Like you said, it got 12th place at the regionals, so he was part of that top cut. Just didn't make it to the top 8 portion of it, but had a really good run. Like we said, also we have also profiled that deck and a variation of that deck in the past on this channel, so we definitely saw its capabilities, and really glad to see that it got a really good run.
Absolutely. So with the top cut out of the way, there were some other decks we want to mention real quick that we saw that made day 2. Obviously didn't really go high in day 2, but they made an appearance. They got those players got experience playing against the next level in a regional. So the first deck we want to talk about is we saw an Expathra EX do fairly well. It got 175th. So top 256. And this is a deck that we don't really see a lot of, but when we do, we're not surprised that it makes at least one day 2 appearance.
Yeah, I mean, really what it is, it's the Frostlass Monkey Dory engine with a different friend. And I think there's pieces to this deck and the combinations with its deck list that make a lot of sense. So we talked about it runs a 3/3 Frostlass with the Freezing Shroud ability. It runs 3 Monkey Dory. It runs 1 Maractus, which I think is super smart. Like we talked about in the past, Maractus is seeing more and more play lately because of its corner attack. Because what you want is you want to put something in the active that is stuck there with corner, and then you want to use Frostlass and Monkey Dory to just kind of ping around it. Because if you can put something under that bench and it just keeps on getting 2 to 3 damage per checkup phase, and then with your Monkey Dory, you're just passing off 30, 60, 90 of those onto your opponent's bench. Whatever's in the active probably isn't getting pinged with the Frost Blast as much. And you're just being like, all right, I'm going to keep your active stuck here, and I'm going to just mess with your bench.
Mm-hmm.
You get prizes that way. And you get prizes through abilities 9 times out of 10, so you're not proccing Fezandipiti and different things like that.
Yeah, so as long as you're getting the knockout in between turns during Pokemon checkup with Freezing Shroud, then yes, you avoid the Fezandipiti's Flip the Script ability. If it's during your opponent's turn, unfortunately, it will proc. But the goal is to use Freezing Shroud to get those knockouts. And really, adding the Spathra with it, one being a Grass Terra, so 1 Terra, so no bench, that's a bench barrier in itself.
Mm-hmm.
2 being Grass, which I think with the amount of Dark and
some water types, and there's not much around yet.
That's a really good typing. And then Psyball, it's a really easy attack to power up. It only needs 1 energy to really attack, and it really preys on those heavy energy costs attacks or decks that we see in the format.
Yeah,
so,
and on top
Groudon, stuff like that.
And on top of his ability, it makes your opponent's active have to do 1 more energy to attack. So if your opponent is committing to the active, you're just gonna that damage is just gonna snowball into more and more bigger numbers. So it's one of those situations where Espathra is definitely the cleanup hitter. It is definitely just cleaning up math. It isn't creating its own math. It just even if it does 90, after Freezing Shroud and Monkey Dory does this thing, 90 is enough in a lot of situations.
Exactly, yeah. So just wanted to mention this deck. And then one other deck I want to just mention, not necessarily fully mention, but at 80th place, Blissey has made another appearance, but it has a new partner.
180.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It got 180th, 180th place.
I was like,
so just below the Espathra, so.
So yeah, the Blissey, one, it being a colors Pokemon, you could always put different partners with it, which is always the beauty of these colors decks. It's never going to just be the same thing over and over again. But the new partner you're talking about is the Centiskorch from Surging Sparks. So the Centiskorch is a Stage 1 Fire Pokemon with an attack Billing Heat Wave for 1 Fire Energy. It is 130 to the active and then 30 to one of your... Does 30 to each of your bench Pokemon, so you're setting up your own Monkey Dories in that deck. So it kind of self-fulfills itself. So the last deck we talked about was Frostlass setup. Frostlass sets up Monkey Dory. This deck is Centiskorch going to set up your Monkey Dory. And so that 130 turns into 90, turns into 120 very easily because you're running a full 4-pack of Monkey Dory here. So you're probably having at least 2 to 3 in play with 1 Blissey to kind of just finish up.
Yeah, it basically the concept when we talked about the Copperaja deck, just in a different format or a different variation of it. You have a single prizer doing the same thing. The cool thing is I saw a video of another content creator talking about this card and how strong this card is. And they talk about, 1, it prevents getting amped because you have 130 HP versus the 120, so they can't get 2 prizes after being amped. It sets up your Monkey Dory, so with the Happy Switch, you can get all your energy off your board. And it's really strong against decks that don't leave any energy on your side. Yeah. So they go for the one-shots. Okay, you have no energy. Monkey Dory is a dead card. This gives you the damage, and then Monkey Dory is super strong.
Yeah, and all you need is 1 or 2 turns of Centiskorch. You don't have to rely on chaining these Centiskorches. Once you have 1 or 2 of them on, you're set for the rest of the match.
Exactly. So just wanted to mention that. I thought that was a really cool tech that I think we're gonna see a lot more of. So, other than that, really, it's the same old decks that's made day 2 before, which makes sense. Regionals are only the strong decks do really well, and we have the same about like 10 to 12 decks that do it. So, just I'm glad that a rogue deck did do fairly well and got top cut. We don't see that a lot lately, so the fact that the Toad Scroll did that, it warms my heart.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really cool that was a deck that you and I have talked about in the past. It's like, all right, someone optimized it just a little bit more, because it just shows that anything with the right thoughtfulness behind it, the right meta analysis, can do well. With, I hate to say it, but 12, in order to get 12th at a tournament, you have to be a little lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of luck, a little bit of analysis, a little bit of patience can get you to a really good day.
So, fun fact: the Toad School player went 7-1 on day 1.
Woo!
So yeah, they were on
So that
a really good run that day.
9-2, the 9-2-2 finish was just he stumbled out of the blocks going into day 2, which at that level, you already had the 7 wins. Getting 2 wins in day 2, it's not too bad.
No, they went 7.
They went 7-1, so that means they went 2-1-1 on day 2 prior to the top cut.
Which one of the losses being in top cut.
Yeah, so really good day.
Oh, absolutely. So really cool to see that. But enough of the past. Let's go back into our little mini series that we've started. We're on the last iteration.
Mm-hmm.
So, as those who've been listening and watching us, we've been talking about cards that we either think are being played too much or need to be played more.
Yes.
So with the Pokemon, we did too much and too little, and now we're getting to trainer cards, which honestly, with trainers, the ones we see played a lot are justifiable. We get it. So we're now just more focusing on cards we wish we could see get more play, or at least in local level, not necessarily in a competitive level, but we want to make arguments on certain supporter cards for this week that we think are up and coming, that can make an impact in your deck building, and we just want to highlight for you all.
Yeah, and when we were sitting out and trying to create this list, the one thing Dean and I were trying to look at, it's like, are there supporters right now that are the brand new shiny object that really get too much play and too much attention? And when we started diving deep into like the top decks and decks that have been doing consistently well, we're seeing the same 4 cards: Research, Iono, Boss, and then depending on if it's an ancient box deck, we're seeing the Toros, we're seeing the Vitalities, we're seeing the Sadas. So we're seeing the archetype specific 4th. So like Terras, we're seeing Crispins and stuff. Like, all right, supporters are very, very intentional, and they're being done in bigger counts. So we really couldn't sit here and tell you today that there's supporters that are being played incorrectly. There's supporters that should not be in decks because it's, oh, look at what it can do. We want to make that clear. Deck list the supporter lines have been pretty optimized for the current format. Now, the cards that we do want to bring up today are cards we think can fulfill, like I was talking about, that 4th slot beyond your Boss, your Iono, and your Research, to bring your deck to life. Your setup or your recovery pieces to really kind of keep your momentum going in the early to mid game specifically. And the first card, Dean, I know you've been telling me about this card for the longest time, how much you love this card.
Yeah, so the first card that I think is really good, especially with how we're going into more of an EX heavy deck or format, no more Vs or anything like that, is I think the Serrano card is being very underutilized. And what Serrano reads is search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon EX, reveal them, and put them into your hand.
Yeah, and I think...
Sorry, go ahead.
And I think for the way this card is written is very good because it just says EX. It doesn't say basic. It doesn't say evolution. So you could pop off a you can grab a Fezandipiti and 2 important evolution pieces if you're an evolution EX deck. You can grab 3 of your basics if you are all basic EX decks, because those are still a thing. Like we just talked about, Toadscroll running 4 2-mask Ogre-Pons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this could search for your setup. It can search for your consistency pieces. This gives you a lot of flexibility because there's still a lot of decks right now that rely on those 2 prizers.
Exactly. Honestly, I haven't really looked at a lot of the Terra box, but this card reminds me that this could work in Terra box because that's all they're really focusing is getting their EX in play, whether it be the Trapkas, not Told Scroll, the Teal Mask Ogre Pong, your Fezandipiti, your Wellspring, Pikachu EX. Like they play nothing but EX. So a card like this, I see it can have a lot of benefits to a card for that deck. Yes, it is your supporter for turn, but a lot of times, like if you need setup and you can't play the Precious Trolley, I feel like this is great for your setup deck.
Just imagine you play this and grab a Mew EX, a Fezandipiti EX, and a Teal Mask Ogre-Pon. Who
That's a lot of
needs?
draw.
That's a lot of draw. That's all your consistency pieces right there. I don't think all 3 of those cards exist in the same deck very often, but you're talking the Mew EX is splashable in almost every deck. The Fezandipiti is splashable in every deck. We're talking about EX as being the centerpiece to a lot of formats right now. So if you can just pull 1 or 2 consistency pieces and then the heart of your deck with a supporter, yeah, it does feel bad that you're not getting these from maybe a Terra Orb, Ultra Ball, or etc. I think this is a really good turn 1 supporter or turn 2 supporter if you absolutely need it.
Yeah, especially in like a deck like Raging Bolt. I know you really saw this Vitality, but if you can't get the energy in your discard, this can at least get you your Toll Scrolls where if you have the energy in hand, you can draw 3 more cards.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in essence a draw support for you because you get one, you're thinning out your deck, getting those Pokemon out, putting them into play, and then okay, Teal Dance, Teal Dance, Teal Dance. Have a Mew, draw 3 more cards if my hand's low. So depending on the situation, this is very flexible in how you play this supporter. Because yes, it's technically a Pokemon search, but it's a Pokemon search that can turn into draw support, that can turn into disruption. It can make your deck into a lot of other variables in one single turn.
Absolutely. And then the next card, same vein, so I'm just going to go right into it, is Jacq. It's basically the non-EX version of Serrano. Yes, it's only 2 evolution cards, but that can still get you into, again, a setup position where you just have to get maybe your middle stage evolution pieces to help you kind of get, because you have your stage 2 but no Rare Candy in hand. You need that baby Toadscroll in your Toadscroll EX deck. Like you have these pieces where a Jacq could help pull you that very easily, get you multiple of them, help that cascading of your evolutions to happen. If you get a TM evolution, boom, turn 2, you have a stage 2 EX in play. So it's very easy to kind of to roll those combinations into effect to get to where you need to go.
And the cool thing with Jacq is you can get both a multi-prize evolution card or a single prize evolution card. So a good example would be getting those Metangs with the Metal Maker ability, using Jacq into the now you're turning your energy acceleration out. You can use this to get your Noctowls, and then you get your Noctowls, you have a Terra in play, boom, you're thinning out your deck even more. So really, this provides more flexibility compared to the Serrano, which was limited to EX. This is limited to just any evolution, no matter what. So it can help with any setup that you need.
And I think, yes, we're talking about these as your supporter for turn for your evolution setup. Yes, we are not ignoring the fact that Ultra Ball, Buddy-Buddy Poffin, Great Ball, Terra Orb, we acknowledge that those cards are existent. I think some of this conversation, especially for the last two cards and potentially the next card, needs to be very made with the idea that we are having a certain card come in future format that is going to affect those item cards specifically, which is the God, Caracasta's pre-evolution. Tortuga.
Oh, Tortuga,
So Turga
yeah.
is coming and pretty much getting us Trash Lance back into format. So it's not Trash Lance. I have to see what the name of the actual attack is, but it's for 1 water energy, 30 times the amount of damage for every item card in your opponent's discard pile. So when it comes to deck building, this is going to affect it. Like, we're going to be much more of a supporter reliant decks because you don't want to have 10 items in your discard pile turn 2 anymore. Unless you really are okay with just getting one shot by a stage 1 fossil. So
Yeah.
these cards are going to affect how you do your beginning because you don't want to just burn through your Ultra Balls. You don't want to burn through your Buddy-Buddies anymore. Like, you need to kind of be very smart of when you drop your item cards into play and kind of mitigate the damage from that card.
And I think along that same conversation is, yes, we have that card coming out in the future, but right now we do have an item lock card with Badoo. So if you can't play your items, you can't play your Nest Balls. You can't get your Ultra Balls out. These 2 cards are really important for your setup then. If you have them in your, then you can actually evolve and get the Pokemon you need without relying on items.
Yeah.
So we're going from a very item dependent format and we're transitioning to something that's really more 50-50 with support and item draw for your Pokemon, for getting your Pokemon out and play. So as we move forward, we're reacting right now to Badoo, which is really just an introduction to more or less item control.
Yeah.
To waiting for the Worlds format where that card is going to be legal. It comes out in the Unova set, and we need to learn now to how to deal with it. So when we play in these tournaments during the summer, it's not going to catch us off guard.
Yeah, I remember when Trashland Garbodor was in format, and it was paired with Garbotoxin Garbodor, so it made players really cognizant of how to play their abilities and how to play their items. And that is a skill in itself of you have to trickle your items into play. Be like, all right, I'm going to let my opponent do 120 to me. I'm going to let my opponent do 150. All right, you're one-shotting me regardless. Floodgates open. Like, you have to make those decisions as a player. But part of that also goes back to, like we're talking about, the deck building choices with these supporters to where, you know what, I'm going to be more supporter based. I'm going to be more ability based. I'm going to play more abilities that allow me to search my deck. I'm not going to be so focused on items because of item block and item hate, where I can still kind of figure out my game plan around what you're trying to prevent me from doing. So that these 2 cards, and even the next one with Lana's Aid, really kind of does that because Lana's Aid is put a combination of 3 Pokemon without a rule box or basic energy from your discard pile to your hand. And that is basically saying Super Rod as a supporter. So again, 1 less item you're playing. You're not playing your Super Rod. You're not playing your Sacred Ash. You're not playing your Night Stretcher. You're playing your supporter instead. So again, is there a card that does this? Yes. But we have to be very cognizant of the fact that we have to look forward in the format with item lock and item hate coming up. And this Lana's Aid does Super Rod, but gets around from those punishment turns.
Yeah, and I like this card a little better than Super Rod because sometimes you need those cards in your hand to just to continue playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Super Rod does the same thing, but puts them in your deck. So unless you have like a Nest Ball or Earthen Vessel to get that into your hand, okay, cool. You're putting them back in your deck so you can draw into them. But this puts them straight into your hand, and you can put them into play that same turn. And this is really important for maybe those key evolutions that you're missing, or if you just need that 1 energy to do an attack. So this is 1, not an item, so as we move forward, we can rely on that. Mm-hmm. And 2, this goes straight to your hand, then you can play them as is and move forward and get your gameplay even more going.
Yeah.
versus relying on drawing into them, because now a lot of our supporters are more draw based than anything. So, okay, yeah, cool, I can draw into. Well, what if you whiff that draw?
Yep.
Versus guaranteeing those cards right away.
Hmm. And I think the Lana Aid supporter is very much a card that I think a lot of single prize decks would rely on more. Where you
Mm-hmm.
part of it the strategy is chaining your one prize attacker, where you kind of have to stagger your evolution pieces up to make sure that you're not just drawing out and you're not also running out of your attackers. So this helps you get those resources back immediately, where you can continue that momentum even if you got knocked out.
Exactly. I love this card in my single prize decks. Honestly, if you're playing anything with a single prizer that is basically a key engine, I say a one of this card is probably for the best. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, like we said, there's item cards that do the same thing, but sometimes you need that supporter just to keep your board state going.
Absolutely. And then we talk about draw support, and we've been talking about how Iono, Research, Judge, they give us consistent draw. Don't get me wrong. But a card that we've been seeing more and more of that I think need to get even more attention. Like right now, it's the one of stage. I think that this could be a two of stage with the format we're in. Morty's Conviction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have to discard a card. So what? We play a whole bunch of cards to say discard X to do Y. But with the format we're in, where everyone's board is always maxed out, this always feels like it's going to be a discard 1+4 to me.
Yeah, especially with area zero underdefs, a lot of times your opponents have an 8 card board. So being able to discard to draw 8, I see that's a good balance there. And a lot of times we're playing decks where you need certain cards in the discard. So like, oh, I need that energy for next turn so I can Sada, or I need this card in my discard do XYZ. And one thing I've been trying to do a lot is that like using pieces I need for a late game, especially if I'm playing Night Stretcher. I'll discard that Ursaluna. I'll discard something I don't need right now. That way, when I play the Night Stretcher, I have easy access to get that Pokemon card, play it down, and I'm off running.
Yeah.
So having that combo with Morty's Conviction, I think is very helpful. You get a lot of draw, and you can combo it with ways where if you need to discard, boom, it's a great card for your deck.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, I've seen it as a one of in a lot of decks. I really think it could be a two of. Like it really does give you that secondary draw supporter that can give you high volume. Yes, it is a victim of does your opponent have a large board? So there might be times where it's in your hand and you don't feel like you're getting maximum value out of it. Um, I think a card like this would benefit from a card that has a supporter based attack back in format, where if you played your supporter, this attack does 70 more damage. I think this would love a card like that, because then at least you're getting your attack buff out of it. We don't have that in format yet, or if we do, it's not widely played. So it's one of those situations where that is a card that it is purely on condition, but that doesn't mean this card's bad. We've seen we've definitely seen cards like Colress in the past and expanded in the GLC for sure that has taken this type of effect and made it super popular.
Exactly. So this is definitely a card that's being slept on a little bit. Yes, like you said, it's in that one of phase, but I think slowly it's going to be a 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then the last card I want to talk about is a card that I saw a lot of people when they saw the Journey Together set be like, oh, this could be important. It kind of has not gained any traction. But going forward, I think it will be, not only because of a card that's coming in the future, because how honestly, when diving into these decks, we're seeing a lot of special energy now. Not only that fact that we're going to get a super powerful special energy in a week's time.
Yeah, so the last card we want to talk about is the Ruffian card. Honestly, Pokemon tools and special energies are becoming more and more of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get those tools and energies out, yes, we could use the A-Spec Megaton Blower. Gets rid of everything on your opponent's board. But that's your A-Spec for your deck. That's a one-time thing. Yes, this is your supporter for turn. But you can really go after that one card on your opponent's bench or even the active, wherever it is on their board, that you're really worried about. Say, okay, Gardevoir, I want to get rid of that Bravery Charm, knock out that Drifloon, get a free prize card, and then I can continue on my turn.
Yes.
Or, okay, I see you play that Bravery Charm or that Ancient Booster Capsule on your Raging Bolt to get more HP. I want to get rid of it and make my attack easier to hit on you. Oh, you have the Legacy energy that turns your single prizer into a no prizer or your multi-prizer into a single prizer. Yeah, let's get rid of that, and I want to get my prize card. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no. Tool card, because there's right now no real tool card hate in the format. This is really the only way you can hate on tool cards. Yes, I would say more decks run tool cards that are the TMs than probably any other type of tools that's not the HP modifiers. And those go away at the end of the turn, so Ruffian doesn't really care about that. But the special energies, these special energies, everyone's like, oh, we're such a basic energy format. I'm like, are we really, though? Luminous energy, Legacy energy, we're going to get Team Rocket energy coming into play. We're going to have Prism energy in a couple sets. Ruffian is going to be in a spot where it's going to be like, I need to be a 1 or 2 of in your deck.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of when we played Giacomo against Mew VMAX, because that the playing special energy was so powerful, and the Giacomo was a one-of that really people didn't expect, but when it was played, it was game-changing.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that Ruffian is going to be on the same power level as Giacomo, like that, but it's getting close to it because, yes, we're more reliant on special energy than we want to say we are. And I think we're more reliant on tools than what we say we are. Because another tool card that I'm thinking about is Rescue Board and really Gravity Gemstone.
Yes.
With those two cards that help with your retreat ability, getting rid of those can help either make or break your decision for that turn.
Yeah, that way you don't have to force play a card like Maractus, where I'm like, oh, cool, you have a retreat affecting item. Cool, corner, you're stuck. Well, instead of now using your corner, now don't get me wrong, Maractus in certain decks can be super powerful. Instead of having to rely on corner-like attacks, you can put pressure in other ways while also keeping that active stuck because it's outside of its normal strategy. Or
so
you can get Gravity Gemstone out of play so you can retreat. Works both.
Exactly. Yeah, so other than playing Jamming Tower, there's really no way to turn off the effects of tools. So being able to have a card in your deck that can help you navigate that, I think it's something that's worth the 1-of slot at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a 2-of depending on the type of deck you're playing and the amount, how much tools affect it. So
yeah,
something to consider. Definitely will get stronger with Destined Rivals comes out once the Team Rocket engine is becoming more popular. So we wanted to really bring this up again because of Destined Rivals coming out at the end of this week at the recording of this episode. And it's like, hey, remember this card when you deck build. This may become useful.
Yeah, and all these cards, again, are not going to replace your research, your Iono, and your boss order count. Absolutely not. We're not trying to say that by any means. These cards will fulfill that 4th supporter slot very, very well, depending on how you are building your deck. So, very few decks only run those to min 3. A lot of decks have that 4th type of supporter, and this could help kind of round out your supporter line, but also round out some consistency pieces so you can have a better early game in and game out.
Exactly. If you're looking for that 59, 60 card slot, and you don't think items are really going to do it or adding Pokemon will really do it, these are cards that I would strongly consider because it'll help depending on your consistency. It helps with your opponent's board state manipulation. It depends on what you're looking for and what you're getting weak on. This can help you strain up some matchups.
Absolutely. So, speaking of one of the cards that we talked about, let's go move on to Rogue Deck of the Week, because I was telling you one of the cards we picked in today's list has definitely made me feel really good in this deck.
Exactly. With this week's Rogue Deck of the Week, as we're getting into Destined Rivals, we were fortunate enough to have 2 decks being introduced early into live. Unfortunately, we can't get our hands on those cards right now because of production issues. They will be released at the end of this month. But in live, we were given the Marnie's trainer deck and the Stevens trainer deck. And I really gravitated towards the Stevens trainer deck a lot. I love the more defensive style of what Metagross can do and the partners with it. Everyone's playing the Marnie's cards. Don't get me wrong. The Marnie's Grimstall is really strong, but I'm having a really fun time playing with the Stevens and Metagross.
Yeah, and with the testing I've done with this deck, the interesting card, like you said, this is only a one of in the list, but the Jacq has helped me set up early games so often where I just didn't know how to really keep my turn 1 momentum going. Like, I would Jacq turn 2, and I was able to feel like I am also running an extra TM evolution to get you into the Metagross quicker and to get into the Metagross more consistently. So the Stevens Metagross EX is the main attacker of this deck. It is a Stage 2 Metal Trainer Pokemon, so it can only evolve from Stevens Metang, which evolves from Stevens Beldum. So please make sure when you're wanting to play this card, you understand that this evolution line is different from a traditional Metagross, Metang, and Beldum evolutionary line. Now, Stevens Metagross EX has an ability called X-Boot, where you, once per turn, you may search your deck for a single metal and a single psychic energy, and then attach them to your Pokemon any way you like. So, 3 energies per turn minimum. If you have multiple Metagross, you can get more and 1-up. And its attack is for a metal double colorless, and it does 220. So, like Dean said, this is a very defensive deck. You're not trying to one-shot this deck by any way, shape, or form. You are trying to become super bulky. And you do that with 3 major cards. You do it with the Stevens Carbink, which has the ability that all of Stevens' Pokemon will receive 30 less damage. You do it with the Bronzong, that says all of your Pokemon receive 10 less damage. That does affect attacks onto the bench as well. So not the placement of damage counters from Dragapult, but anything that does bench damage will automatically reduce that damage as well, which is always great to see. And then the third card that really reduces the damage is the Stadium card Granite Cave. So with Granite Cave, your Stevens Pokemon receives 30 less damage. So we're talking a 340 HP Metagross EX that can receive 70 less damage per turn from abilities. And then you run a Hero's Cape if you want to make it even more bulky by turning that 340 to 440. Or you can run a Defiance Vest if you're trailing in the game to get a little more bulk. So there's a lot of different ways where this deck becomes super hard to one-shot. So you are definitely playing the 2-shot game, and what your strategy is, you want to turn their 2 shots to 3 shots. So it is a longer, slower game, which is why I think setting up Metagross so quickly is super important in this deck.
Exactly. When I first saw this, I see what a lot of people were doing, and yeah, they were going with the defense style. But when I was doing research, I found more ways to make you bulky that people weren't trying out. and I kind of wanted to show the Bronzong because no one's ever played it. I feel like it fits so well with this deck, being a metal type Pokemon as well. And then one other card that I put in there, as if you've seen any of my decks, this shouldn't be a surprise. I put in one of those Genesects from Shrouded Fables with the Ace Nullifier ability. One being a Steel type Pokemon, you can accelerate to it if you need to with the Metagross to attack, and then you play a lot of different tools in here. So like we said, you play the Defiance Vest, you play the Hero's Cape, you play a Rescue Board. So if you put one of those on the Genesect, especially if like, okay, I am getting really ahead, I don't see myself being able to really be behind at any point in this match, boom, put the Defiance Vest. That way it's not a dead card. Activates the Ace Nullifier ability, and then your opponent can play their Ace spec for the rest of the game until they take out that Genesect. So a lot of tankiness, kind of disruption style, to where you can two-shot a lot of things, and you're really preventing your opponent from doing what they want to do by either adding a turn to KO your Pokemon or not playing a certain card they need to. It's very defensive, and we haven't had a deck like this in a very long time.
Yes, and you put in a Lillie's Clefairy EX, which I thought was brilliant, because not only does it make sense with Metagross' ability, you can set Lillie's Clefairy from nowhere. Lillie's Clefairy helps you take care of Dragapult significantly easier. Dragapult actually does become a one-shot with Lillie's Clefairy because of Dragapult's necessity to have a wide board state. You're naturally going to have a wide board state. So you're hitting 180, 200 with Lillie's Clefairy, and then you multiply that by 2 and you're one-shotting the Dragapult. So you have a natural Dragapult counter in this list. I really wish Gardevoir was weak to metal and not dark. Then it would have been really well positioned in the meta. But it's not. It's considered a psychic, not a fairy type. So, but if Gardevoir was weak to metal, this would have been very well positioned in the meta. Probably a lot more than we see nowadays. But it's a fun deck. I'm enjoying it. We'll have a Rogue Deck of the Week showcase video for this at the end of the week as well to showcase how it's kind of what it does on the ladder and see what the matchups on the ladder are like. But we definitely wanted to talk about it, especially with us talking about Jacq today. It was a really good deck that we threw this as a one-of because, again, it filled that 4th slot really, really well.
Exactly. So be on the lookout for this on Friday, the same day that Destined Rivals becomes legal, or really the day after that it comes legal on live. Yeah, it's been a fun deck. I played a couple games with this myself. I can't wait to show you all our fun with it. So with that, speaking of Destined Rivals, as a reminder, myself and some of my friends, we are going to be doing our live stream this Friday on May 30th, I believe.
Yeah, the 30th is
Friday. Yeah, May 30th, 7 p.m. on our YouTube channel. We're going to make some Destined Rival decks. I already have a couple built. I've been playing around with some other archetypes that I wanted to showcase, and we're just going to see, okay, these are some of the new archetypes that are being introduced. We'll play against each other, kind of like what we did for Journey Together. So please join us. We'll interact with you all in the chat, and it's going to be a really fun time, just enjoying some Pokemon on a Friday night.
Absolutely, and then as well, Destined Rival is becoming live on live that weekend. So you definitely, if you want to play test with the new cards, that will be your opportunity to do so. I am waiting for Destined for Rivals to come out on live so I can test a deck that I am really wanting to put my hands on as well. So there's a lot to look forward to going into the beginning of June in the TCG.
Absolutely, and we want to try to be ahead of it if we can. We have some fun deck ideas. So Friday we'll see some IRL testing with me and my buddies, and going from June, Devin and I, we have some fun decks that we want to try out and show you all on live. So please be on the lookout for that. Also, we are on our journey to get 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So please like and subscribe to us. Once we hit our goal, we'll do another special live stream where we'll pick some rogue decks that we have featured on this channel and kind of make our own little rogue deck championship tournament. We'll play each other and see which one of those decks becomes the king of all rogue decks for us at the Rogue Deck Chronicles. So please help us out achieve this goal. But with all that being said, Devin, do you have any comments for our viewers and listeners this week?
No, I mean, it's just one of those, it's a waiting game now. Let's get Destin Rivals into our hands and let's have fun.
Exactly. I'm excited. I've been already play testing for NEIC, so I'm excited for this. I got a couple more weeks until that tournament. But yeah, thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Rogue Deck Chronicles. Hopefully we'll see you on Friday night, 7 p.m. on this YouTube channel. But if not, we'll see you then and have fun playing those sneaky decks.
Bye, guys.